Hello, tonight. You open your eyes, not in your bed, but chained to a jagged cliff of blackened stone, wind howling like a forgotten prayer through the Caucasus peaks. The sky is not sky, but seething bronze, streaked with fire like an angry god's canvas. Your arms are stretched outward, bound to the rock with celestial iron unyielding, humming softly with divine judgment. You can't move, but strangely, you don't panic. There is no blood, no screaming, just the ever-present sensation of being watched. You're in the body now, the burden of Prometheus. This is the story of the Titan who defied Olympus, of the fire he gave, and the fire that would consume him again and again. And you, lucky you, have been granted front row seating inside his eternal punishment. A quick heads up, you probably won't survive this journey, but if you do, you might understand why suffering becomes sacred when it's chosen. So before you relax, consider liking and subscribing, but only if you truly enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments, where are you listening from, and what time is it for you? Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background noise, and let's slowly begin tonight's voyage. The air is thin and sharp. It tastes of lightning and old secrets. Each morning, if you can call it that. In a place where time feels like a massive eagle descends from the heavens. Its wings thundercloud wide, eyes glowing like molten gold. It lands before you with the gentleness of doom. There is no malice in its gaze, only duty. And then, it begins. It rips into your side to devour your liver, which regrows with every setting sun. But here's the twist: it doesn't hurt. Not the way you'd expect. It's more like watching your reflection shatter slowly, over and over, with no hands to stop the cracks. You don't scream, you've done that for the first few centuries. Now, you mostly listen to the eagle's breath, to the wind's lullabies, to the stories buried deep in the cliffs, because pain stops being a scream and starts becoming a language. Widely accepted historical fact. In Greek mythology, Prometheus was a titan who stole fire from the gods and gave it to humanity, an act that enraged Zeus and earned him eternal punishment. But here's the less mentioned bit. Some versions say the fire wasn't literal, it was knowledge, insight, the divine spark of invention. Scholars still debate whether Prometheus's crime was theft or awakening. The eagle flies away, blackening the sky with its exit. You exhale slowly. You remember why you're here. Because you chose this. The gods offered you many outs: obedience, silence. You could have watched from Olympus while humanity stumbled in the dark. But you looked at their shivering hands and hollow eyes and decided they deserved more. And so, you gave them fire. Which sounds romantic, sure. But have you seen what mortals do with fire? They warm themselves, they build, they destroy, they forge blades and burn forests. They write poetry and light bombs. Your gift wasn't a flame. It was choice, and choice, dear listener, terrifies gods, because gods survive through order, and you brought humanity chaos disguised as light, so now you hang, but you are not broken. Some days Hephaestus visits not in person, of course. He's far too busy crafting tragedies out of thunderbolts. But you see his mark in the bindings, feel his compassion in the way the metal hums, not with cruelty, but necessity. He didn't want to chain you. But gods follow laws older than themselves. One day, a shadow appears beneath the clouds, a silhouette hulking, wild half-mortal. Heracles. Yes, that Heracles. It's not today. But you feel his approach like a whisper in your bones. You know he will come. You know he will break the chains. But not yet, because you're not done burning. The fire still flickers behind your eyes, a flame that even Zeus cannot extinguish. You see humanity evolving, climbing, falling, dancing through the centuries. You feel their dreams, their sorrow, their yearning, and you know it was worth it. You gave them more than fire. You gave them rebellion. You gave them divinity. You gave them you. High above, the sky crackles, and the eagle circles again. But tonight, you don't fear the beak or the talons. You almost welcome them, because in pain, there is clarity, and in punishment, there is purpose. And sometimes, the only way to light the world is to let yourself burn. The chains dissolve, not in the way iron rusts or snaps under brute force, but in the way ideas outlive punishment. You blink, and suddenly, you're no longer on the cliffside. The eagle's cries fade into silence, and the air thickens with the scent of pomegranates and myrrh. You look down. Your feet are bare, resting on obsidian tiles slick with moonlight. Columns rise around you, carved with symbols that shiver when you try to read them. You are now her psyche, a mortal girl, cursed with divine attention. And as with all things, the gods desire, the gift was also the curse. You walk slowly through the Palasa place, neither here nor there. It is both a temple and a trap, where gold drips from the ceilings, and shadows breathe beside fountains that whisper your name. You are married to a god now, or so they say. But you've never seen his face. Only his voice touches you soft kind, and always in the dark. He loves you, he says. But love must not ask questions. That's the rule. A historical fact. In the myth of Eros and Psyche, the mortal girl is forbidden from looking at her divine husband. When she finally dares to glimpse him in the light, she loses everything. But what textbooks skim over is how terrifying it is to love what you can't see, and how sometimes love without truth feels a lot like captivity. You reach the bedchamber. The sheets are silk. The room is quiet. You can smell him not musk or sweat, but something ethereal, like the hush before a comet falls. He speaks again. You doubt me. It's not a question. It's a verdict. You say nothing. He kisses your forehead, and darkness swallows you again. But that night, something inside you ignites. Maybe it's curiosity. Maybe it's desperation. Maybe it's a tiny rebellion passed down from another myth. A whisper from a titan who also dared defy the gods. You hide the oil lamp beneath the pillows. When the hour turns thick and the god beside you sleeps, if gods truly sleep, you rise. Your hands tremble. The flame flickers. You hover over the silhouette beside you, and finally, you see him. Eros, the god of desire, radiant, young, his wings folded gently beneath him, like a secret half-spoken. His face not cruel or monstrous, but beautiful in the way starlight is beautiful, distant, dangerous, and divine. Your heart aches, not because he lied, but because he didn't trust you with the truth. A drop of oil spills from your lamp and kisses. His shoulder he wakes, and the myth fractures. He vanishes. The palace crumbles, and you fall. The wind roars past your ears as the world rejects you, and you hit the ground of the mortal realm once more alone, ashamed, and suddenly human in a way you weren't before. Scholars still debate whether Psyche's tale is a warning against female curiosity, or a metaphor for the soul's struggle to comprehend divine love. Some say it's a parable about faith, others, about fear. But standing barefoot in the ashes of a vanished palace, you realize it's about boundaries. Yours, the gods love mortals, the way storms love trees, beautifully, violently, and with no promise of tomorrow. And yet, you don't give up. You walk across continents, plead with indifferent deities. Complete tasks designed to break you, sort, grain by grain. Gather wool from monsters, collect water from the river Styx. You even descend into the underworld and return, and every step is agony. Every trial is silence. Every victory is earned, not gifted. Eventually, you find him again, not in the palace of illusions, but on equal footing, mortal, vulnerable, asleep under the sky. And this time, he opens his eyes not as a secret, but as a companion. He sees you and lets you see him, not just the face, but the fear behind it, the longing, the loneliness of being worshipped, never known. He kisses you not as a god, but as a man, and for the first time in this myth, love doesn't blind, it reveals. Psyche becomes immortal not because she marries a god, but because she endured, because she didn't accept a love without answers, because she learned that desire, without honesty, is just a prettier form of control. You stand together, on a hill of wild flowers, dusk gathering like a promise overhead. His wings stretch behind you both, sheltering, not suffocating, and you realize gods are not cruel by nature. They're just unused to being questioned, and that might be the most divine act of all. The hill fades beneath your feet, and the air shifts again, not colder, not warmer, but deeper, like stepping into an echo. The world turns dark, not with danger, but with the hush of something ancient watching from behind the veil. You don't land this time. You are simply there, and there is a labyrinth. Its walls are towering and alive, pulsing with some unseen breath. Moss clings to stone in shapes that almost resemble faces. The sky overhead is black and starless, yet the path ahead glows faintly, marked by old footprints and fresh blood. Not yours, not yet. You walk. The walls close in. The scent of iron and salt sharpens as the wind whistles like distant screams or perhaps laughter. With each step, your shadow grows longer, dragging behind you like a memory that won't die. You are Theseus, now hero prince, sacrificial volunteer, and you've entered this maze to slay the monster at its heart, the Minotaur. Half man, half bull, entirely alone. A creature cursed for the sins of others, born of divine arrogance and human punishment. A historical fact, the Minoan labyrinth myth likely originated from the palace complex at Naissus, with its many twisting corridors and ritual bull imagery. Archaeologists uncovered frescoes depicting bull leaping and intricate stone passageways, fueling speculation about how myth and architecture merged. But the Minotaur, he was never meant to exist, a marginal fact rarely spoken. In some versions of the myth, the creature is not mindless. He speaks, he remembers, and he dreams. You round a corner and find a wall smeared with symbols scratched by claws or fingers long ago. Names maybe, please, prayers. One of them, you swear, is yours. Time bends in the labyrinth. Scholars still debate whether the myth represents the mind's descent into madness, or a political allegory for the subjugation of Athens to Crete. But here, in this breathing, shifting place, it feels more like a moral equation. What are you willing to kill to be called a hero? You grip the sword Ariadne gave you. It's heavier than expected, not in weight, but in story. She gave you a thread to a way out, because what's a hero without an exit strategy? You hear the growl, close, not bestial, not quite human either, like something caught between identities, neither accepted nor understood. The sound of a soul-denied narrative. Then you see him, the Minotaur. His eyes are not wild. They're weary. He doesn't charge. He waits. You raise the blade and, for a moment, the world holds its breath. The myths say you slay him cleanly, and walk away with glory, and girl in tow. But they never say what it felt like. The blood was warm. The scream, not monstrous, just human. You dragged the sword behind you, no longer proud. The thread Ariadne gave. You still glows faintly, leading the way out, but each step forward feels heavier than the last. When you finally emerge into sunlight, it doesn't feel like victory. It feels like forgetting, because that's what heroism demands, doesn't it? Not just courage, but convenient memory. And still, as you leave, a part of you stays in the labyrinth, the part that questioned the monster's eyes, the part that wonders who you might have been if you had dropped the sword, not the silence. You sleep that night beside Ariadne, who will later be abandoned on a lonely island because you will decide she no longer fits your next chapter. A choice historians gloss over, but the myth remembers. And maybe that's the darkest part of the legend, not the labyrinth, not the beast, but the lie we call the hero. Sleep peels away like mist, and the island fades. You find yourself on a windswept cliff, overlooking an impossible sea-not water. But something more ancient, darker, glittering like scales beneath a bruised sky. The waves do not crash, they whisper. Each crest is a name lost to time, each trough a regret. You feel the weight of a pelt across your shoulders. The air smells of sweat, sulfur, and spoiled wine, and your hands are stained red, gold, and something in between. You are Heracles. Now, not Hercules. That's the Roman PR version. The smooth, heroic, crowd-friendly idol. No, you're the raw one, the cracked one. The one the gods broke and reforged again and again for their own amusement or punishment. Who's to say which? This is the fourth labor, the Erymanthian boar, a creature vast and wild, born of mountain storms and divine indifference. Its tusks tear through trees like parchment. Its breath wilts crops. It is said to descend from Typhon, the monster who once challenged Zeus himself. The hunt is not the point. The endurance is. You trek through frost and ash, your lion skin barely shielding you from the snow that falls sideways in defiance of gravity. The mountain watches you, unmoved, its slopes etched with old battles, blood rituals, and petrified footprints of others who came and didn't return. One historical certainty: Heracles' labors were likely inspired by older ritual purification, right symbolic journeys of atonement from dark deeds. He wasn't just slaying monsters. He was buying forgiveness. A less discussed truth. Some versions of the tale say Heracles laughed as he chased the boar, like he was enjoying the absurdity of being punished for the madness that wasn't even his. Because, yes, Heracles once killed his wife and children, not by choice, but by Hera's divine manipulation. Scholars still debate whether this was a metaphor for mental illness, divine scapegoating, or simply the price of being too powerful and too mortal. You crouch now in the snow, waiting. You hear it before you see it, the thunder of hooves, the growl that sounds like a choir of knives. And then it bursts from the trees, eyes glowing with that same ancient hate all mythical beasts seem to share. Not toward you, toward their role. You wrestle it. It's not elegant. It's mud and ice and screaming tendons. At one point, you bite. Its ear not because it's smart, but because you're out of options. You win. Of course, because the myth demands it. But as you drag the beast down the mountain, bound and humiliated, you notice its silence. It doesn't struggle. It just stares at you with the calm of a creature who knows this isn't justice, just narrative inertia. And when you deliver it to King Eurystheus, who hides in a bronze jar in fear, like a child with too much power and no wisdom, you wonder if the real monster was the bureaucracy all along. You spend the night by a dying fire, the boar's breath still fogging the cold air nearby. It doesn't sleep. Neither do you. Instead, you stare into the flames and remember labor once laying the Nemean lion and how even then, victory felt more like loss with a better marketing team. And you know there are 8 more labors to go, 8 more ways to break. To prove, to bleed, to mythologize your suffering into something palatable. But right now, you're just cold, just tired, just a man trying to outrun a god's grudge. And for one moment, in the hush between stories, you let yourself feel something. Dangerous. Empathy, not for the beast, but for yourself. The fire fades, and you're no longer Heracles. Instead, you walk beneath a moonless sky, where stars blink like secrets, too shy to reveal themselves. The air here doesn't move. It holds you, suspends you. You're walking the thin boundary between reality and dreama, soft thread woven between worlds, and then stone. Red, black, endless. Welcome to Mesopotamia. You're Gilgamesh now, not entirely human, not quite divine 2/3 god, if you trust the clay tablets, which, to be fair, have survived thousands of years longer than most TikToks. The city of Uruk rises behind you proud and vast. Its ziggurats like steps for gods to descend, or ascend, if they ever felt humble enough. But tonight, the walls you once built to keep chaos out feel like a cage. Because you're not running toward glory now, you're running from grief. Enkidu is dead, your brother not. By blood, but by bond. Formed in battle, sealed in laughter, broken in silence. A widely accepted fact. The Epic of Gilgamesh is the oldest surviving work of literature, etched into cuneiform more than 4,000 years ago. It shaped everything: heroes, quests, the idea that gods can be cruel, and mortality is a riddle without a solution. But here's a lesson on truth. Some fragments suggest Gilgamesh wept over Enkidu, not just in mourning, but in fury that a god would give him such a gift only to rip it away. You trek now through scorched valleys and forgotten temples, chasing immortality. Literally, the plant that grants eternal life is said to lie beyond the waters of death. Just a short walk, right? Assuming you survived the scorpion men, the sleep test, and the nagging existential dread. You pass glowing stones that whisper names of civilizations long buried. You pass trees that bleed when touched. And always, always, you carry the weight of loss not as a burden, but as a compass. Eventually, you meet Utnapishtim, the Mesopotamian Noah, more or less. He tells you the flood came not from divine wrath, but from divine fatigue. The gods were tired of human noise. Scholars still debate whether this was satire, theology, or just ancient noise complaints immortalized in poetry. Utnapishtim offers you a chance, a plant that can restore youth. You find it, cradling it like hope incarnate, and then a snake steals it, just slithers up and eats it, while you bathe, because of course it does. You don't scream, you laugh, because the lesson has crystallized. Absurd and clear. Immortality is not living forever, it's being remembered, and here you are, for millennia later, walking again through this story, proving that maybe that snake did you a favor. Because no one carves songs for men who never end, they carve them for those who dared to end meaningfully. And so you return to RUK, not with the plant, but with perspective. You gaze upon your walls, not as barriers, but as poetry in stone. Each brick a reminder. Mortality is the canvas, and grief, though brutal, is the artist. The sands shift once more beneath your feet, and the red stone of Uruk dissolves into a horizon carved by cliffs and riddled with echoes. You are Theseus now, and Athens, your city, is calling you to the labyrinth. The scent of olive oil, salt, and fresh-cut marble drifts across the air. Far away, waves crash against the shores of Crete, where a king waits with a problem that only a hero can solve, or at least someone reckless enough to say yes without reading the fine print. You don't begin in the maze. You begin as a symbol, a prince with a sword and a desire to be more than the echo of your father's legacy. A ship sails across the Aegean, its black sails tight with purpose. Inside your chest, a question pulses louder than any drum. What makes a hero the triumph, or the willingness to enter the unknown? A widely accepted fact. The Minotaur myth is one of the oldest tales of Greek tragedy and glory. Hoffman, half-bull, born of divine meddling and human failure, imprisoned in a maze that should never have existed. A stranger detail, however, often ignored. Some versions suggest the labyrinth was not just a structure, but a ritual, a symbolic journey through the mind, the ego, and the self. And so you enter. The walls breathe, the air is cold, not because of wind, but because of memory. Each step forward coils the maze tighter around you. It's not just a puzzle of stone, it's a mirror made of turns and echoes. You don't only seek the monster, you seek the part of you that created it. Scholars still debate whether the Minotaur was ever meant to be a literal beast, or merely the manifestation of shame, of exile, of something buried that could not be named. But tonight, he is real. You hear him before you see him. Hooves scraping marble, breath fogging the air. Eyes like moons glimpsed through broken windows. He charges. But you do not flee. You do not swing your blade. You wait just long enough for him to see you. And in that frozen second, the war ends. You don't kill a monster by feeding it blood. You kill it by offering understanding. But yes, let's not rewrite history too much. You still fight. You still win. You still walk out, bloodied and changed. Ariadne waits outside, thread in hand, heart uncertain. You say nothing. You don't need to. Because surviving the labyrinth isn't about solving it. It's about becoming the version of yourself who can walk back out. You return to Athens. The sails mistakenly left black a mistake that costs your father his life. A tragedy born of omission, of a thread cut too early. And now, in the final light of this long journey, you understand something deeper. Every hero leaves someone behind, not out of cruelty, but because the path they walk must narrow to fit only one. Yet even alone, even aching, they continue not for glory, but because they must. You have reached the end of the story, but not the end of the tale. The gods still whisper in your ear, soft as dust in moonlight. Their myths linger, not in temples, but in footsteps, in memory, in you. So now, let it all fall away. The thunder of chariot wheels, the shadowed labyrinth walls, the blazing forge of Olympus, the shifting sands of gods and monsters. Let each scene dissolve like ink in warm water. Your breath, steady now, moves like the tide between stars. You are no longer the hero, the wanderer, or the scribe. You are simply here, wrapped in the hush of a world exhaled. Imagine the sky above you, a dome of deep indigo, stitched with constellations old as memory. Each star a chapter, each flicker a footnote of some forgotten glory. The night is quiet now, but not empty. It cradles you, patient as the moon. There's no battle waiting, no riddle to solve. Only rest. Breathe in. Feel your shoulders drop. Breathe out. Feel the weight of myth slide off your back like old armor. Tonight, the gods have no more tasks for you. No more cursed relics to retrieve or beasts to outwit. No more journeys through dark lands lit only by belief. Only the soft hum of starlight and the rhythm of your own heart. Let the last whispers of myth settle into silence like the final page, turning itself. Let your eyes grow heavy. Let your dreams take up the tale, because even heroes sleep, and when you wake, the stories will still be waiting. So rest. Listener, you've traveled far, and somewhere, in the hush between two breaths, the gods are watching with quiet smiles. Not because they judge, but because they remember. And now, so do you.